In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the filtering option in Notion databases. Basically, with filtering, you are defining and reducing the data that is visible to you within a database or a database view. You're telling Notion what to show you and what not to show you so that only the data and information you want to see is there, while hiding all of the other information and data. All of that other information and data that's not visible is still there and it still exists. It's just not visible. So the first and easiest way to filter, to set up your first filter, is to click filter here in the top right corner of the database. And yeah, when I click that, all the options come up. The other option is to click on these three dots and choose filter here. So obviously that's an extra click or two. So this is the easiest thing to do here. Um, and you can choose to filter by any property or column within your database. The options that you have to filter on will be based on the data currently entered and input into the database. So to filter by a specific piece of data or information, it has to already exist within the database because Notion's going to pull up all of the data and options and information that's currently in your database here for you to choose from. So we'll go through a few basic examples. So let's start with, say, genre. If I want to filter this database view for certain genres, this is a book database, a library database. So if I just want to show like the fiction books, you can see it's showing me all the genres that I already have input into the database. If I just choose fiction, you'll see now only the books that have fiction here under genre are showing and everything else is hidden. So another example, and then to delete this, first of all, you can just click the little down arrow here. A little bar will show up once you start setting up filters, and you can click on delete filter, and then it'll disappear and you have no filters. So let's try another example, this time with a property that's numbers or numerical. So we'll look at total number of pages. Here we go, total pages. So now you see this bar pops up again, and there's a little down arrow here right beside total pages. So these are your options for numbers, for filtering numbers. So if you want a number to be equal to, not equal to, above, under, or even if, the cell or, data, the piece of data is empty or not empty, you can define that as well. So let's say I want to show all the books with under 300 pages, say, and then hit enter, and you can see total pages here. They're all under 300. So you can define any number you want there. Also, let's look at finished dates as a date property. So I'm just gonna delete this filter, start a new one. So you see I have a property here called finished. Now that's a date property. So if I wanted to filter for all the books I marked or dated as finished between certain dates, you can choose any dates you want. You can scroll through here. You can choose this week, past, next week. And you can choose a number of weeks. There's multiple ways to filter based on a date property. So I'll delete that one. And also, if we wanted to filter to see which books we have read, which we have marked as done, whoops, I'll click filter here. And I have this done property. And you can see here, it's saying, okay, do you want us to filter checked or unchecked? So because this property is checkboxes, I'll just scroll over. Here it is. So there's the done properties. So the ones that are checked are done. So if I just wanted to see the ones I'm done, I can choose checked. And again, there's a little arrow here, so you can say is or is not, but it's essentially saying the same as checked or unchecked. So I will delete this one. What was my next example? Another thing for text properties. If I want to see the property I have entered here, books I've lent out to people. If I want to see what books I've lent out to, I'll choose lent to a certain person. I know Edna is someone I have lent to. So just enter, you can enter an exact name because this here is saying if lent to, the lent to property contains Edna, it's going to show me that, which it's doing right now. Let me just scroll over and there's Edna, as you can see. But of course, there's more options. You can say that the text property is or is not. Same thing, it contains or does not contain. So even if I if I choose contains and choose ed, it's going to show me Edna, and all names or text properties in that, or text fields in that property that contain ed. And you can also say starts with or ends with, and again, if it's empty or not empty. So depending on the type of data entry, if it's a date or text or number, there's different ways, multiple different ways to filter that data. So then you can also add as many filters as you want. You can add multiples. So we have this one, like I lent to Edna, this is resulting in one result. So let's try something else. So now that this bar is showing, we can click add filter here. So if I want to show the books that contain, just say the letter M, it's gonna filter for that. And then you can see the add filter still here. So you can still filter for any of the other properties within the database. So if I choose author, contains M, there we go. So even less data is here. So it's showing me all the books that have a title that contain the letter M, and it's showing me all the authors that contain a letter M. And you can keep adding as many filters as you like. And then, of course, you can always change them by clicking the down arrow. And if this bar is not visible, because you might go out of this database, come back, and it probably won't be visible, just click the filter here, the filter word, and that bar is going to show up. You'll see all your filters, and you can change and adjust them however you please. So now there is another handy setup. You can do advanced filters. So let's just delete these first. So now everything is showing. So if we say add filter, you can scroll down here to add advanced filter. So this essentially lets you add groups of filters with an and or condition on them. So using the and condition, I mean, in my experience, is basically the same as what we just did, adding multiple filters. So if I have all the books, I want to show all the books that contain the letter M. And then if I say add a filter rule, you can choose and or here. So if we choose and all the authors, for example, that contain the letter M, that's exactly what we just did by just adding more than one filter. So the other option, I'll just start again. I'll delete that filter. Using the or condition is very, very handy. So if I want to show all of the authors that contain Elizabeth, there we go. And then if you just click these three dots on here, I can just add to an advanced filter. I can move to that option and then click add filter rule, add filter group, choose or instead of and. I want to show all the authors that the books with authors that contain Elizabeth in them, or I want to show all the genres that contain self-help, for example, that contain, and again, you still have all your options here, contains, doesn't contain, is empty, etc. Yeah, like let's just choose self-help, say. So I just want to see all the authors that contain Elizabeth and all the genres that contain self-help for whatever reason. So you can create that filter that's saying, show me everything with one or the other of these conditions, because I chose or here. So that can be handy for changing your views and filtering the data to keep it organized and easy to look at. So you're not always looking at a data dump of everything all at once. And yeah, I think that's it. One thing to note last is that changing the filters on a view or like on this database, for example, will not change the filtering on any other views of this database. They're all independent of each other. So that's what makes it handy for copying, duplicating databases and creating other views of them. You can independently create unique views and filters for each of them. So I hope that was a helpful overview of Notion filtering.